Today's guest is comedian, Twitch streamer, charity ambassador, and stone clearer, Richard Herring. How are you, Richard?
I'm not too bad, thank you, all things considered.
Yeah, well, obviously, putting 2020 aside, I want to ask you this first before we get into all the stuff you've been up to over lockdown. How happy are you that you managed to get Michael Palin on RHLSTP?
Oh man, I mean, lots of things this year. I mean, this year was looking so good in lots and lots of ways, and the early part of January was just incredible because I was doing taskmaster sort of secretly, and the 4th of January, I think. The minute I asked, and I've asked Michael loads of times, but his agent got back and said, "Yeah, Michael can do the first one." And so that was so exciting. So to get him, and then also to nearly, be a week off cancelling the shows as well. The only fear, even at the time, I was thinking, oh God, what if I kill Michael Palin by bringing him in? So even on the day, I was thinking, it was close enough. It was still 2 weeks from lockdown, I think, but I was thinking it's close enough that he might just cancel because he's been in hospital and had operations and stuff. So it was really nice to do it. But yeah, it was absolutely dream come true for me. Him and Billy Connolly are I mean, him more than Billy Connolly, I think, but those are the two that I really, really wanted. And he was just everything you would hope for and more. Really,
Yeah.
he was so giving and so keen to talk about the stuff that you would think most people go, oh, don't talk to me about Life of Brian. He was like quoting bits himself, so he was an absolute delight and everything you would hope and just utterly charming. And I didn't, I was worried I'd cry and I was worried I'd mess it up. And I don't think I was on top of my game, but I think I got through it okay. And it's quite charming how happy I am, I suppose.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Like I think you can see your adoration for
Yeah,
him. And like you say, the fact that he just slips into doing sketches from Life of Brian like
yeah,
it was yesterday, it's just like
yeah, yeah.
so amazing.
And just pleased that and so many people. That's what I just think it was such a lesson because so many people either are or fake kind of boredom of having their catchphrases and their famous stuff quoted back to them. But it's a lovely thing to have. It's a wonder. As a comedian, you've got to think, well, that would be great if you're in the position where everyone was into something you did 40 years ago, whatever it was. Not quite that long, but yeah. So it's got a lovely attitude, but that's why he's who he is, really.
Yeah. So then is it just Billy Connolly you've got left to tick off your
Well,
dream list?
not just him. I don't think Adam Buxton got him, which I'm very jealous about. But I don't think he will do a live show now. So I mean, I guess I could try and get him online, but like you beeping.
That is me.
Fire? Is it you on fire?
I think we're okay.
Okay.
But I'm in the attic, so it'll take a while to get to me, even if the
Sure.
house is on fire.
But yeah, I think Billy's sort of retired now, and Adam got a great interview with him. He would be a brilliant guest on RHLSTP. It's never say never,
Yeah.
but there's a few people that I mean, someone was saying last year, oh, you should. When I had a couple of, I was trying to get somebody on. I was trying to get the Crankies on or something like that, and one of the agents said you should really get Cannon and Ball on before it's too late. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, Cannon and Ball would be interesting. I should look into that. And it might even have been the Chuckle Brothers I was trying to get because wanted the Chuckle Brothers, and then obviously Barry died, and I wanted Cannon and Ball, and then obviously Tommy died. You got to kind of get in there, but you haven't got time to sit back. So I got Nicholas Parsons about a year before he died, which I'm really pleased about.
And the
But
good
yeah,
news.
you can't get. I'm not pleased that he died. I'm pleased that he did the interview. So it's nice. I think it's a really nice tribute the podcast to the older performers, whether they be alive or not. But it's nice when you get someone at the end of their career because you can talk about the whole thing. And but even with Palin, I feel hopefully, crossed fingers, there's 20 more years of Michael Palin doing stuff to look forward to. So hopefully we'll have him on again. And if there's 20 more years of me left.
The interesting one I found of the ones you've been doing, like the live stream ones on Twitch, was Bill Burr, because he's sort of notorious for being an awkward like interviewee, and so when that one popped up, I was like, oh, okay, this will be interesting. But he seemed to respect you in a way that he doesn't with lots of
I think
interviews.
so. I think a lot of, I mean, I think the American, I think, look, I do a bit of research. I didn't really know much about Bill Burr before I knew he was going to be a guest, and I knew he was, I knew a bit about him, but I think you research who you're talking to. Obviously, I know what not to ask a comedian. Sometimes I ask them that just to be, just to make a joke of it. But I basically know what not to say. And I was nervous about that one because I didn't know him and I didn't know whether he'd take against me. And also, he was like late and then wouldn't record it on Zencaster, so he'd only do the Zoom thing. So we got like a not as good recording, and he was sort of doing it in his house. And he did seem a bit like, and he'd cancelled once because his wife had just had a baby. It was like insane, really. So still only a week later, I think it was, it was in the midst of all sorts of stuff going on in LA as well, where I think he was. So yeah, I was nervous about it, but I think I'm quite good. I think like Nell Scovell recently is the one coming out next week. Who again, I think sometimes people feel like a little bit suspicious, and they've done podcasts before. But I often listen to podcasts as research for the people to see, what other people have asked them, and if there's anything extra I can get out of that. And I'm surprised how many podcast interviews are pretty bad, to be honest. They're just either people asking inane questions or trying too hard to join in and be funny, or or just asking much too obvious stuff. So I think the minute that, having been interviewed a lot, the minute I'm aware of what I wouldn't like to be asked, I think I'm slightly better. But yeah, it's kind of fun when it hasn't happened too often. I mean, most famous to Stephen Merchant, it kind of took a bit of a weird turn, but I do know him. I'm surprised, given that I don't know most of these people, that it doesn't go kind of weirdly wrong more often. But I think I might just be quite good at doing it, and it's more of a conversation than an interview. I always think anyway, so it's not. So it's more like we're having a chat. And so yeah, I think when Michael Ian Black did it, he just said, "Oh, it's like lovely." And again, I was a little bit rude to him, and I don't know him, but he just said at the end, "Oh, it's lovely to talk to a comedian," and I think it's interesting. Again, if they don't really know who I am, which I think most of them don't really know who I am if they're Americans, then I think it's a nice surprise to them that I turn out to be relatively okay at what I'm doing, I suppose.
Yeah. I suppose it's just because you're on 300 official episodes now, but obviously there's loads more than that, and it's like once you've done something that many times as well, you're gonna know. Okay, well, if I ask those sort of questions, people clam up, or if
Yeah, I've definitely got better at it, and I think like I probably. I mean, I'm not sure. In some ways, the early ones are more fun because I'm deliberately trying to sabotage it sometimes, or accidentally sabotaging it sometimes, and putting in a weird energy in some of them. And I think now it's there's less emergency questions now, and I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Sometimes they turn into more official interviews than I like the ones where it's just two comedians messing around. And I love the ones with like Greg Davies and Bob Mortimer and Sarah Pascoe, where it's two comedians messing around or being serious about something, but it's not really, let's catch up on your career, which I think sometimes they tend to be, because sometimes I feel like I have to introduce someone to my audience as well. And you never know if you don't know if you're going to get a person you can riff against. But yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely after 300, you've either given up or you've got good. I mean, if you have 300, it's still terrible, which isn't possible because some people. I have self-awareness, I think, and I know, and I'm my own worst critic, really. So nothing anyone can throw at me is as bad as what I'm thinking about myself. So if I think I'm good, if I think I'm doing something well, then I think I must be pretty good, because I'm usually much more critical and much more, unable to watch myself. I don't tend to watch RHLSTP's back. I do watch the ventriloquism one sometimes to see what that's like. And I enjoy that, but it doesn't feel like me doing that one. So,
I wanted to talk to you about Twitcher Fun, because it's insane, but there's so much satire and like I don't. There's so much going on underneath. It's almost like a magic show where you're showing this, but there's so much coming out underneath, which for like an improvised hour is amazing, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're scary, and it's draining, and the day is not particularly pleasant. I'm just looking through for news stories and thinking, and I don't even think about it too much. I treat it. I've sort of concertinaed together a bit of Fist of Fun, a bit of a Collins and Herring, and a bit of just all 70s TV. And so it's sort of, it is winking at all the influences that come from it. So, I'm using a lot of even the catchphrases of proper ventriloquists, or but in a sort of postmodern way, and then also examining it's about a slightly washed up comedian attempting to relaunch his career by doing a show that gets interrupted by puppets that are just him. But that seem to be trying to fuck him up. So there is a lot going on, and I think that's what makes it interesting. And a lot of the best stuff in it is that completely comes out of nowhere. If I try to plan anything, if I try to plan, let's think of something that has loads of bees in it, it'll be funny to do that, then it doesn't work. But amazingly, they just come up,
Yeah.
They sort of, the tipping point, and just things that are very difficult to say. But the whole thing with Bobby Ball, the whole babushka thing, that babushka thing came from nowhere, and it's almost like somebody else. I knew what he was saying was wrong, but he didn't. The puppet didn't know what he was saying was wrong, and that's when I really love it. I guess I was idly thinking in the back of my mind about doing something with the puppet for a few years, and something about trying to recreate Lee and Herring with Ali instead of Stuart, and the sort of tragedy of what that would be. And so it's just perfect, because obviously I can just mess around and just do it, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't matter. So but it did immediately feel like there's something in this. My mum likes it, which is kind of interesting, and people are clearly getting behind it, and it grows organically. And the only thing is, I feel like if you come in at episode 19, you're gonna wonder what the fuck is going on, but maybe you'll pick it up as you go along. I don't know. That's a lot of these things. You're not going to go back and listen to 104 episodes of Snooker to find out what it is. Maybe you are, but not many people are. So it's kind of quite confusing to come into these very esoteric and self-referential and ideas, I suppose.
Yeah, but I did. I think I came into Twitch of Fun maybe 3 or 4 episodes into it, so still early on. And I was like, "What is this?" Like, I was so confused by it. But I think you've said in the past, is like, good comedy should confuse you the first time you see it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm not sure about this. And now I've got.
Well, it's amazing. I think it's the quickest I've ever done, just because we were doing Kickstarters and one of them wasn't doing very well. And I thought, I wonder if we do an Ali t-shirt, whether that'll send it over the line. And it really gave it a boost in the middle. So it's the earliest I've ever come in with some merch for anything. But yeah, I mean, I think there's, I think all of there's something in all of it. And I think it's fun that, that the breakdown bits, the bits where I kind of, wonder what's going on, they're sort of semi-real, and I think the questioning a carrot that does innuendos about what it is and whether it's the same as the original carrot, because it's obviously not the original carrot, and it doesn't know that it isn't the original carrot. I think stuff like that is, when otherwise I like the idea of it being Wicked Willy for the 21st century, which was the sort of terrible penis. I mean, fun 1980s kind of talking penis cartoon. So again, it was a lot of these things are like taking an old idea, which I think, but that was sort of the ethos that I had with all of the Lee and Herring stuff, which the things I was more in control of in Lee and Herring. We were really I was very influenced by Why Don't You and Tiswas and the Banana Splits and things like that, which were these kind of shows that brought in lots of elements and were crazy, and you could fly off in any direction and involve, and I just realized how much I've employed puppets throughout my life, and it sort of just feels like this is finally realizing this is what I should have been doing, not all along, because I like doing all the other stuff as well, but I think this is the essence of what I do, and it's sort of funnier than Stone Clearing or Snooker. It's more overtly comic than those, but it still is, it's still experimenting around those ideas of what is a breakdown, what is reality, what is sanity and insanity, and how we cope with those things, and I think I've always been sane, but that's always fascinated me, and I've certainly skirted around depression and confusion and all those sort of things. So it's really interesting to find a way to express that. But with my stuff, like, no, but I never get, and I think because I'm so, because I'll do jokes about cocks, and because it's seemingly kind of skittish and silly and boyish, I think nobody no one takes it seriously. But I think I think stone clearing, snooker, and this are all kind of, if Stuart Lee was doing them, they would all be, they'd all be heralded as some kind of insane genius. But maybe they will be, and maybe it doesn't. But I think more importantly, I realise it doesn't matter, and I think that's the ethos of Twitch of Fun is it doesn't matter. Stone clearing is absolutely just for itself, right? There's nowhere that can go beyond what I'm doing with it.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. The idea of doing something so weird and small, and yet it's really one of my favourite things I do. But it's for an audience of, hundreds, maybe a few thousand who will get it and who might occasionally listen. Some people use it to fall asleep to. I'm cool with all of that. But, I think that improvisation thing is very interesting. I think just taking whatever you've got. So Chris Evans sent me an old Jeremy Corbyn puppet we'd used as it occurs to me, and that kind of arrived this week. So I thought, let's use that for something, and it can't be Jeremy Corbyn. So we, have a crack at making a character out of that. And I think that kind of homemade aspect combined with, then someone sending me like a professional quality ventriloquist dummy that he's created for me. It's great if you've still got that interaction with the audience, that the audience love it enough that they'll do something like that and put time. And he won't take any payment, this guy. I've sent him some like merch and stuff in the end, but obviously he just sent me that, but I said, could you make me a cocky carrot? And he said, yeah. And I said, just let me know whatever you want to be paid for it, we'll pay you for it, because he's a professional guy. And he said, no. And he's doing something else for me for the fun of it. And I'll make sure he gets remuneration at some point. But that's so wonderful that there's people out there who are prepared to support. And I think, but that's what I love about all the online stuff, is that the Kickstarters have really kept it, certainly the film version of RHLSTP going. And it was like that's the ultimate. That's much better than being recommissioned by an executive. It's like the audience going, yeah, we want this to carry on, and we're prepared to put in 20 quid every now and again to help you keep it going. And that feels really great, because it means we're doing something right. People love it enough to do that. People love it enough to get the T-shirt or whatever, and feel pleased with that. And I always make sure those rewards in the Kickstarter, if I was a fan of me, I would think this is something I generally want that's really good quality, and that might actually increase in value. If as the I think a lot of these things might, if any of these things get even slightly bigger. But all of those Kickstarter things aren't available to buy.
Yeah.
And so if a new fan comes in and wants that T-shirt, they'll probably give you more than you paid for it. Maybe not if you've worn it like every day since you got it.
Yeah. You're on Taskmaster at the minute.
Yeah.
Is that as much fun as it looks? Because it looks so much fun.
I mean, it was really, really good fun. Except when you fuck up and then it's like horrible. But not the being taken the piss take. I mean, I'm competitive clearly, but watching it back is sort of a weird experience. I loved it so much. It was just the most fun I've ever had doing the tasks. It's terrifying. You're really thrown in the deep end. You generally don't know what's coming. The studios were just wonderful, because we'd just all come out of lockdown, and it was so cathartic. And especially the first day, the amount I laughed in the first day, the first two records, I was crying really all the way through, and it just. I've never experienced the power of laughter to, the well-being I felt. I was walking on air as I came out of it, just for that real restorative power of laughter, which I think is happening for the audience as well, which is great. I'm sort of watching it. I'm surprised how I'm not going to say quite boring, but I'm not. The others are either really inventive or really funny, or a mixture of both. And I'm quite straight down the line. I thought I'd be more imaginative. It's a good tactic for doing well, because I come second or third in most tasks, and occasionally come first, and hardly ever come last. And I'm the ones where I had more time. Weirdly, the ones I had time to think, which I think I did well at, I've been scored worse for. But obviously I'm kind of up in contention to win, which I think I would prefer to win than be funny. But I think probably it's better to do the show. But it's not something you can fake. So like, if you tried to do the tasks in a funny way, or you tried to go, oh, what would be a way to make myself look stupid in this? It wouldn't be funny. The reason it's funny is because people are trying their best, and as it just happens. I mean, I think it's a brilliant, brilliant team of people, and I think I think my part of it is an absolute necessity to make that team of people work. But Daisy May Cooper is just so funny. Johnny is just so sort of tragically funny. Catherine is this prim school mom, some mum who turns out to be kind of slightly crazy, and who, I mean, Greg has a lot of fun with. I don't know how much you'll get into it. When Greg gets childish and undermines, I like in the fart bit, which is in one of the extras, but there's another bit later when he's really rude about something she's made, and her reaction is so brilliant. And Mawan is just like this renegade, half genius, half disaster. So it's just such a good team, and it's very close, and everyone's sort of equally crap and equally good. I think nearly everyone gets like a standout moment where they've done something really brilliant. I'm not sure what mine is. but also everyone gets a moment where they get to be humiliated, and there's Greg and Alex are so brilliant that it's just that's the problem. I think like I was sitting back in the studio just enjoying the show and forgetting I was in it for half an hour.
Oh yeah, because you've been hinting for years that you wanted to go on it.
Well, I just knew I'd be good at it because it's good on it because of my competitive nature, and because but I actually thought I thought I'd have more wild ideas, but just in the heat of the moment, you don't know how much time you've got. If you try and guess the tricks, you'll find out it was a different trick. So if you're always looking for the secret or the trap in it, you won't get the normal ones done. And if everyone did something wacky, and if everyone climbed into the Christmas tree thing, then that wouldn't be. They probably wouldn't use it. If everyone did the same thing, they wouldn't use it. So why it works is that people's brains work in different ways, and that's why they're clever, because they put together a team that they know. I've got an idea how people will do this, and then sometimes I think Catherine Parkinson was probably a surprise in the way she reacted to stuff.
I don't think I've laughed at something on TV in ages as much as I've laughed at this series of Taskmaster.
Yeah, it's funny, man. It's definitely it's funny, but it's again, I'm being critical of myself because I am, but that I'm aware that I just think whatever happens, Daisy sort of won the series because she's just such a superstar in it. I think she's standout, just her swearing at the end. And see, I was very annoyed about that one because I knew that was absolutely right my wheelhouse. And saying words, it's obvious that was so easy for me. I'm so good at stuff like that, and so for me I kind of miscounted, and then suddenly realized I had to do another. I only had to get 6 words, and I was even though I won that episode, I was so angry for ages about, and still am, about how I fucked it up.
As soon as that one came up, I was like, oh well, Richard's going to be good at this. That's his job, is coming up with words,
And I played Scrabble, and I had time to think. The only difficult thing about going last was not repeating anyone, but then you just make sure you choose a different set of words. I just need to say rich. In fact, that's the irony. If I'd said, I think I'd said Alex, I'd have been allowed, because I don't think they were doing. So it was just crazy that I think I said acre, and then just threw myself about where acre had come from, because it's such a weird word. But literally, I could have just planned. I was sitting there thinking, well, what can I say, and just make sure I'm not going to say anything anyone else has said. So yeah, but Daisy, but again, that's funny to have someone like that in it, as long as you've got someone like Daisy who's just gonna win it by. I mean, that's just that's what I mean. It's such a wonderful thing to see her win that as a bystander, and even as me, it's great that she won it, because just through her rudeness, they were absolutely perfect.
Yeah, to win after dropping a C-bomb.
Yeah. And often she starts an episode really badly. She does really bad with the brought-in task. She's nearly always last in that, and she's really low down. And then suddenly, she has this sprint at the end, and she nearly won the episode. I mean, I was quite a long way ahead in that episode, but she sort of came back. But I'm only thinking about the series total. That's why I don't really care about winning the episode. So that's why I could still win and be annoyed, because I'd only picked up 2 points. So I'm still something like 6 points behind her at this stage.
And then last week, your book, The Problem with Men, came out.
Yeah.
And I loved it, man. I listened to the audio book version of it. I haven't got a physical copy yet, but I really enjoyed it, man. What was it how did that come about? What was it like writing
Well,
it?
like, it was entirely my editor's idea, Rhiannon. She kind of got in touch. I've done books. I've done my emergency questions books with Sphere, my last one, and so they were sort of looking for something else for me to do. But I wasn't really actually pushing anything, and they suggested it, and I was not really that keen because I was sort of giving up doing the International Women's Day thing because it's become a bit aggravating and weird. And I thought I don't really want to push it on, and I don't want to look like I'm trying to cash in on. And I think men need role models and need to accept that they can talk about stuff and be a bit more open about stuff. And I think, and that masculinity is moving on and it's actually good for us, and that feminism or equality would be good for all of us as well, or most of us. So I think those realizations were good for me personally. So I find it every time I've read it back or when I listen to the audiobook, it makes me a little bit emotional at the end, which I think is, and it shouldn't really, but there's something quite inspiring about the argument, I think, as it goes through, and the kind of journey I personally go on throughout this short book. So it's a short book, it's a short audio book, and it's, I think I'm really pleased with the reactions it's getting, and it seems to be doing okay so far. So as bad and awful as most of this year is, it's good that I think it might be good for comedy if people are aware they've got to diversify a bit more and be ready to cope with stuff like this, because even though it's unlikely that something of this scale happens, something could happen to you personally in your life where you can't go on stage anymore for whatever reason. You need to be able to kind of, with a job like being a comedian and a writer, you need to be able to roll with the punches, which I suppose is what Twitch of Fun is as well. It's sort of just let's see what happens and go with it and accept it, and this is what's happening. Try it out and see where you get to. So yeah, it's I'm glad you like it, and everyone seems to be positive about it. I'm just waiting for the horrible Meninist trolls to realize it's out, and then I'll have to go through all the stuff, which is the reason I stopped doing it.
But you say in the book you always thought it was better that you did the replies on Twitter on International Women's Day, and I feel like that's the same for the book. Like it's better that you did it, because then it can't be like, oh, these feminists preaching to us. It's like, well, here's a comedian who accepts that he had faults in the past and everything, and so you learn a lot from the book, but I laughed a lot as well. It's like,
but that's what comedy is. If you trust the comedian, they can say what they like. If you know that they're joking, they can say what they like, and you'll go along with it, like you can with your mates. If you're with your mates, you can say stuff you wouldn't say at your job or at your grand's funeral. You'd say, it's about context. And if you like the person, the same joke that someone else would say would appall them. Look at Greg Davis in Taskmaster. A lot of things, if someone else did that job, it would be a disaster. But he's actually charming as he destroys you. So and you like it. So, and there's no explanation of why that should be, apart from that's his personality. So that's the thing with comedy. It's not, a lot of people try to take something out of context and put it down in cold words and then go, look at this awful thing this comedian said, but but look at it in the context of a show and how they said it and why they said it, and then judge it. So I find it interesting that people judge stuff before they've read it. So like it's obviously called The Problem with Men. It's not my title, but that's obviously a slightly in your face title to make you think, what's the problem with men? But it doesn't say there's a problem with men. It could be if you haven't read it, it could be there isn't one, or it's that we're just too nice.
That's what the whole book's about, though, isn't it? Essentially, is all these men getting angry that there isn't an International Men's Day when there is one.
Yeah, and not bothering to celebrate it even when they find out about it. So, it's. And it is indicative of something in our society at the moment. So weirdly, this little stupid thing that I did as a joke on these, initially as a joke about those idiots, but then a joke on myself because of my personality, that I would then bother to try and locate every single one of them. The joke, that's the joke. It's just a joke. It's a joke on idiots, and it's a joke on me and my own idiocy, and that's a neat little joke, and it's a fun thing to observe as a man has a breakdown as he attempts to do something impossible. But then there's so much more to it, and I think for me, it's cemented through the book into being like, oh, I can see why why men asking when International Men's Day is actually like slightly at the root of a lot of the problems we're having at the moment, but also how we maybe move on and how we come a bit closer together. I think everyone's trying to divide stuff, and I think this book is not trying to say everyone be a feminist and men are awful. It's not that. It's about, hey, men are really on the whole pretty good. Some of them aren't. Let's as men try and police the men who are letting us down, because they're making us look like fucking idiots. And let's police ourselves and stop ourselves looking like idiots. And let's, anyone against. I just love the fact that on the International Women's Day, men are ruining it, but also kind of arguing that society isn't equal to men, and then so having to go at women about it. And you kind of go, but you want the same. If you want equality and they want equality, that's the same thing. So you don't fight the people who want the same thing as you. If they achieve equality, you'll also get equality. So so all the things you're worried about will be addressed as well. And all we can do is aim towards making things fairer. And if men were as confident as they pretend to be, then they would welcome it, because I don't want to feel like, oh, I'm done pretty well as a comedian, but it's only because I'm a white man, and and society was, and the system was sort of skewed in my favor. I want to feel like I did well, and because I'm good. And I want to be realistic about it. If it has been a thumb on the scale, and that thumb's taken off, and I find out I wasn't as good as I thought, then good. Then I have to try harder to be better. So it's that's the truth of it. I think only people who know that they're flying by and getting away with stuff are going to be worried about the idea of things becoming fairer. And if you've got any, if you know any women, or if you've got any children or daughters and nieces or whatever, it's, you want the world to be fairer for them. It's so it's
hopefully. Then I'll leave you with this, because I feel like I've taken up enough of your time. This is the closest I get to an emergency question.
Okay.
It's the question I ask everybody, although it does annoy quite a few people. So the question I ask everyone, and here's some examples to set you up for it. So the answers we've had so far are Ricky Gervais, Russell Brand, Steve Guttenberg from Cocoon.
Yeah.
So the question is, who is the most famous person you've sent a text message to?
Oh, I wish I'd sent one to Steve Guttenberg. I'm probably not that many. I mean, it's probably Steve Coogan, isn't it? I don't think I've gone sort of outside of my basic area. Let's think. I have texted Steve Coogan, and last time I texted him, he never responded. I'm trying to think if there's anyone beyond that. I don't think there is. I tend to tweet people. So when I've got famous people on the podcast, I've either tweeted them or emailed their agent. I don't often text them. And yeah, I don't have lots of famous friends. I only know Steve because we worked together right at the beginning, really.
Well, you created Alan Partridge.
I created Alan Partridge and Steve Coogan, who's a character as well. So I've worked with him. I mean, there might be. I'm just trying to think if there's anyone who I knew really early on who went just ballistic, but probably it would be hard to beat Steve Coogan. He's pretty famous. I've not texted anyone like Rowan Atkinson, who will probably beat him. I've not really, mixed with politicians or world leaders. I don't think. Yeah, I don't. I live a very simple life. Where I don't really go to showbiz parties. I used to when I was younger, and I think I behaved so badly that I'd never got invited back. I've kind of always found the whole celebrity thing, I was always winking at it, and always, I was going along going, "This is crazy. I'm at a party with such and such." So I was always taking the piss, and I was never interested in being cool, which I think probably annoyed Stu. So I would rather get the laugh and be rude to someone, or try and make a joke with someone than try and be cool and fit in. So yeah, I think Steve Coogan.
Steve Coogan's a solid answer. I'll take it. Richard, is there anywhere you want to point people in the direction of?
Well, richardherring.com has most of the information. Twitch.tv/RKHerring is the Twitch channel. Herring1967 is my Twitter feed. Yeah, and most information of stuff you will find from somewhere along there. But the Twitch channel, I'm doing like 3 or 4 nights a week, and there's some very varied program of stuff, and you can watch RHLSTPs live if you want to, or you can wait for them a couple of weeks for them to come out as podcasts. So there's lots of opportunities to see what I'm up to, I guess.
Brilliant. Richard, thank you ever so much.
Cheers, mate.
You have to embarrass yourself, Mark.